Geek Out! Hey, welcome to another installment of From Geek Out with Love. I'm Sam.
Jake.
Rich.
I'm Garrett.
And this week we're going to be talking about 1999's The World Is Not Enough, Non Orbis Sufficient.
We lost everybody on that one.
Yeah,
Did you actually go on to Google Translate and stick that in to get that?
No, but, okay, here's how fucking bonkers I am. You see Bond's like family crest on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and it has his family motto in Latin. And I remember that. So so no Google Translate was needed. I'm just that
dope.
Yeah.
The dopest shit you'll hear all day.
What's your favorite Shamik Moore movie? Is it Dope?
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen it, but I'm assuming that's one of them.
He's the voice of Miles Morales in the animated Spider-Man movie.
Oh, the one coming up?
Yep.
That one looks dope.
That does
For real.
That's probably going to be my favorite Shamik Moore movie. But enough about Shamik Moore, unless he's in a Bond movie, which maybe one day. But but not this day, not in 1999. Rich, I remember your mom wouldn't let you actually see this one in theaters after having seen GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies.
That is correct. Thanks a lot, Dale.
You want to provide the context for the people at home that don't quite remember why you were unable to catch this one?
One of her co-workers saw it, I guess, in early screening or the midnight showing, and came in the next day and said that he was nothing but nudity in the entire movie. And I think that, this is a movie that's by and large pretty forgettable, aside from a pretty cool few set pieces and some interesting one-liners. But there is that scene where Bond has the glasses where he can see through everyone's clothing in Tarkovsky's casino, and you can see some Sophie Marceau nipple in this, and Denise Richards is running around like top at one point, so I can see why some sheltered 50-year-old coworker would say that.
Yeah. Also, those sunglasses that you were mentioning that Brosnan was wearing were like dated in 1999.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he never
that was
looked
like how
cool.
you knew he was a spy because like he was wearing some fucking 70s fucking shades.
Yeah.
They're like, let's see, which one's 007? Oh, that guy, clearly.
Yeah.
Douche. 00 douche.
As if ordering the we all watched this together except for Garrett because he's like 4 states away.
5 states away? 6 states away? 7 even.
Maybe
even 8.
Cross-border.
Maybe
Yeah.
9. That of The Office.
Yeah.
When Dwight's trying to stall, he's like, how many more people to get injured? 2? 3? 4?
But when we were watching this, shit, I forgot where I was going with that.
I don't know.
But the
Martinis? Was it something to do
I
with
feel like that's kind of the theme of this movie though. Like I forgot where it was going.
yeah, I mean, I think it starts out decently, but
it's pretty solid cold open.
one of the longest cold opens.
Let's dive into the cold open
Yeah.
because that's how we
It
know.
is the longest cold open, I believe.
That's how we
At
normally
least to date,
how
up
we-
to this movie.
how we normally do this thing. So, I saw this movie in theaters and I probably saw it once since, and the whole time with Sam and Rich, I was like, I don't remember any of this movie. Like I remember like the villain, I remember Denise Richards, I remember Sophia Marceau, I remember a couple of little things here and there, but the opening I didn't really remember that much. I remember I think it was Rich was like, here's clearly where it should have ended, and then it goes on for like what feels like 15 more minutes. And something that we kept saying to the movie's credit, and we've said it, I think, even a couple, obviously stunts are crazy, but some like ridiculous stunt work for the opening, like falling out of hot air balloons, explosions, in boats, falling out of windows, some hand-to-hand stuff. I mean, the opening really has a lot of stuff going on. Which is pretty crazy. And at one point you were like, did I miss the opening theme? Like, what the heck's going on here? Because it really does seem to last a pretty long time for a Bond opening.
Also, I don't think the boat is as cool as they think the boat is.
There a lot in this movie is that. Is that?
There's just like it was this movie was actually kind of difficult for me to rewatch because like on the one hand like I had a lot of shit going on earlier this week, tail end of last week, so like it was kind of hard to fit it in, but I didn't expect to be as disinterested while it was on as I wound up being. Like the number of fucking rewinds was insane, which for a Bond film is kind of it's when you've seen them before, like you kind of know what to tune in for and what not to, but like the number of times that I was just like, oh shit, this movie's still on, I should probably watch that, was kind of I don't it was a lot more than I would have expected, I guess.
I will say I do enjoy the Bond. Speaking of openings, I do enjoy the Bond theme, the title track by Garbage.
This is one of the best ones I think that's ever been written. This is a top tier song.
I don't know why it always gets like, I don't know if it's because of the movie it's attached to. You kind of get the same thing with like Sheryl Crow's Tomorrow Never Dies. Those are both like top tier, easily the best Brosnan Bond themes, easily like the best Bond themes since at least A View to a Kill.
Living Daylight's solid.
Yeah,
I feel like Brosnan Bond films in general though catch a lot of flack that like Brosnan as Bond catches a lot of flack that I don't know that he necessarily deserves, although this film Tomorrow Never Dies and certainly Die Another Day, which we'll get to, are underwhelming, but I don't know that that's really his fault.
No, I mean, I remember saying during this one, I think to Sam's like weird surprise, Sham's weird surprise is I was like, you know what? I kind of dig Brosnan in the movie, but yeah, the movie itself. Also, like Die Another Day is like watching your old uncle play James Bond. It's just very weird.
not as bad as like View to a Kill, Roger Moore.
That's like watching your grandfather play James Bond.
I do feel like though that like Pierce Brosnan is, and it's probably one of the reasons that I do have kind of like a soft spot for the Pierce Brosnan films is that like he does kind of channel a lot of Roger Moore. He kind of channels almost all of the previous Bond actors to an extent, but I think like he takes a lot from Roger Moore that like more from Roger Moore than he does from any of the other actors.
I think that's
there is that kind of suave playboy spy thing that there's a very similar kind of feel to it, I think.
I think it's a good distinction.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, to make is like is that the movies themselves may not be that good, but Brosnan, like even Tomorrow Never Dies, I was like, I really like him, as Bond.
Like last time, how many times did we tell you to go watch The Matador? Like twice, maybe 3 times, whatever it is. Like go watch it again right now. It's a good fucking film.
It is fucking great. And his mustache is perfect.
It's a great fucking mustache.
It's so good. But
I wish I could have that mustache.
it's fucking. He's also like pretty cold in this one. Like I think one of the colder Bond moments, which I'm always a fan of, like cold-blooded Bond. But I remember, I don't know if this is what you were trying to remember, Sam, or not, but Brosnan knocks out a lot of the Bondism super early in this movie. Was it? Okay, sweet. That's what it was. Like, he orders that vodka martini. He tells you what his name is. Like
Tux.
The Tux. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the bow tie. And like he knocks that shit out early.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it looks like he's a drug dealer on Miami Vice. This isn't Brosnan's fault. But I do not like.
The wardrobes are terrible.
I do not like Brosnan's style.
I've never liked Brosnan's style.
I don't like the Bond Brosnan style.
I like tactical Brosnan, but you only get tactical Brosnan like at the beginning and end of GoldenEye.
Yeah. But like suit
and I
Brosnan,
guess end of Tomorrow Never Dies as well.
Suit Brosnan. Nah.
Get out of here.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Biz Cash Brosnan isn't peak Brosnan.
No. We're about to get to some comfortable ass Bond when it gets to Daniel Craig.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, very comfortable.
Very casual.
Very comfortable.
Yeah.
Very well fitted suits.
Yeah. Real comfortable Bond.
Real comfortable Bond. There's just too much collar going on, man. With Brosnan's Bond, bright colors,
Super like pinstripes.
Get the fuck.
Yeah.
Go away.
Those linen pants in the last in the
I don't know. Like I kind of and again, being the resident Moonraker liker, the crazy shit. I do kind of have a soft spot for.
He kind of has he kind of gets the pseudo pompadourish haircut that he has for like the Robin Thicke haircut, and that's not a good association for like the rest.
It's really not. And now that you say that, I'm like actually rethinking everything I've ever thought.
So he breathes heavily through his nose, and for his last 2 movies, he looks like Robin Thicke.
Like, can we stop for a second and just all agree? Fuck Robin Thicke.
Yeah.
He's the worst.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. He made Paula Patton single.
No. Stop right there.
That's true. Because Paula Patton forever.
Oh yeah. If there's
She needs to be a Bond girl.
if there needs to be a follow up, that's just Paula Patton movies. So this and Two Guns.
No, after
this. Yeah.
After Daniel Craig, like, who's the new Bond? We're just Paula Patton's just gonna be
Paula Patton
Paula Patton movies.
She needs to be in everything.
Yeah, she does, man.
Put Paula Patton in everything.
What was the last thing she was in? Like,
she was in like things.
Jumping the Broom?
No, Jumping the Broom was between Ghost Protocol and Two Guns. Maybe Jumping the Broom too.
I'm gonna look up Paula Patton movies.
Yeah, this is your tangent, guys. You were waiting for it. It happened to be Paula Patton. Oh, because it was Robin Thicke. That's how we got into the Paula Patton. That's right. Yeah.
This won't be the first tangent, but this episode probably won't be as bad as the last one, to be fair.
Well, I think that when we were watching this movie, not to completely go over what Jake said about the cold open and about him hitting all the Bond points, rather quickly, it was very, at least apparent to me, that they tried to duplicate the GoldenEye formula pretty quickly on in this movie. You had Bond in GoldenEye driving around with his psychological advisor, whatever, the woman who's supposed to do a psych report on him, and he ends up hooking up with her. Here, he's got a woman that's supposed to, his doctor's supposed to be looking him over to clear him to see whether it is fit for active service. He ends up hooking up with her. He ends up going to a casino pretty early. They even brought back Sarkovsky. I mean, the only thing this thing was missing was Jack Wade and a trip to, a tropical island in the Caribbean, and you're kind of looking at, the outline of GoldenEye Part 2, especially as this villain has ties to MI6, from her previous years. So the movie itself, the plot's just hollow, I think, like there's not really anything special there in terms of the plot, but I think that it's not an unfair statement to say that Sophie Marceau steals almost every scene that she's in. She was a fantastic character in the Bond pantheon, and it gave, it's one of the first lead female villains. The only complaint that I would have about her is the fact that she died before the useless fucking piss-on with the bullet in his head dies. Like, that's the big finale in the submarine. That I thought kind of fell flat. I mean, he really didn't do anything other than take up screen time.
Really awkward.
Yeah.
This was a Bond where when I was walking home the other night after watching it, I really kind of thought that not only does Brosnan do a good job of tapping into Roger Moore, but he kind of also, I thought, like to Jake's point, tapped into Dalton a little bit here. You see Bond submitting to a medical examination after injuring his arm or collarbone or whatever, and kind of somewhat deals with that for the rest of the movie. I wasn't to kind of get a little scatterbrained. I wasn't a big fan of John Cleese's character. I thought that was kind of just a really poor attempt at throwing in some humor for the sake of throwing in some humor.
I think that the other part of that though is that because this is John Cleese's first appearance, right?
Yeah.
And it's what's his name, the guy who played Q,
Desmond Llewellyn.
Yeah, I mean he's getting up there, and it's one of those where if they're gonna keep things going, they have to be kind of ready for that. So kind of easing the transition was something that I understood. Like
I understand why they did it. I just think that there's a more sophisticated way about going about doing it than bringing somebody who's
John Cleese. As much as I fucking love John Cleese, was a very odd pick for the role, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and the kind of like the eerie thing is like Desmond Llewellyn died like less than a week after the film opened too.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer because he's been there since From Russia with Love. He's been there, since like 1963.
And he's looked the fucking same the entire time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that guy like was born like that.
I've never seen him with like dark hair.
Just like he's born 5'8" and like 150 pounds, fucking
With white hair.
Yeah. Yeah, balding and with white hair, and
There's like a picture of him in like grammar school or whatever the fuck they call it over there, like just
primary,
hanging out on the rugby field with his friends, just looking like an old dude.
Yeah. It's like, what's that Robin Williams movie? It's Jack.
Oh, Jack.
Yeah, it's Jack. He's Jack.
In Jack.
Yeah. Francis Ford Coppola's Jack.
I saw that in
Jack.
theaters.
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters, yeah. Also, Traffic with the K is Paula Patton's latest movie.
Oh.
So I'll be watching that. Did you guys ever see Warcraft? She's in Warcraft.
I didn't. I know she's an orc woman.
She's an orc woman, and I was like, wait, she should be She-Hulk.
She should be She-Hulk.
Jennifer Walters.
Paula Patton,
Jennifer Walters. I am going to be the showrunner for the Netflix series, so
yeah,
I've just been waiting.
As long as you do better than the Iron Fist guy, I think you'll be okay.
I hope I do.
Honestly, that's not a very high bar. So, and I fucking love Iron Fist. Like, don't get me wrong. I was so excited about that show, and like I saw that fucking trailer with him jumping over the car and was like, no.
Have you seen the new trailer where you see him in the mask?
I like literally if I see something that includes the words iron and fist, like I'm just like I'm violently expelled from the room. Like I just like my body just like leaps out on its own accord. It's a reflex.
Like that scene in Constantine where Rachel Weisz gets sucked out of the getting sucked through the bush. Like, do. And Keanu's like, fuck. That movie's fucking rules. I don't care. Goes against everything.
Did you ever watch the Constantine TV show?
I think I saw the first 2 episodes, and then I kind of just fell off it.
Those were the 2 good episodes. Then don't watch anything else. But like, yeah.
I like that guy. Was it Matthew Ryan?
Ryan.
He still voices him because I watched the Justice.
He's a season regular on season 4 of Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh, cool. I watched
as Constantine.
As Swamp Thing. I watched Justice League Dark, the animated movie, and he voices him in it. It was fun. They fight a giant shit monster. Like that's not a joke.
Yeah.
Like they fight a shit monster. So Deadman's in it.
I will say I do like it when Bond skis.
Do you? Okay.
And this is like the last time we.
Oh, that was the other thing we forgot that he did early. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely ski. There's a lot of like, we're talking about him invoking other Bonds. We're leaving the elephant out of the room, or we're not addressing the elephant in the room. The could have done that one better. The Honor Majesty's Secret Service. The title is a quote from Honor Majesty's Secret Service. It's a reference anyway. Yeah. I think in a lot of ways in Electra King, Bond thinks he kind of finds like a new kind of Tracy, but straight down to her cutting off her own earlobes, he's actually found like a Blofeld. So if you ever want to see Bond fuck Blofeld,
wouldn't that be crazy though? If because we were saying
Bond fucked Blofeld.
Well, that'd be crazy. But like,
love you, baby.
No, but like we were saying how great Sophie Marceau is in this movie, and she should have been the main villain. If she was like in multiple films, like if she goes bald, and he gets the scar over her eye. No, but she for real was is the best part of this movie.
She's the MVP.
Yeah.
Sophie Marceau all the way.
Yeah.
I wish she did more things other than this in Braveheart. I mean, I guess she was more active in France, but
yeah.
But yeah.
Let's see what her latest movie is.
Yeah, what's her?
She was in that David Spade movie too.
Which David Spade movie?
I have no idea. It wasn't very good, like most of it.
Yeah, I was about to. I
Movies.
mean, you've got like 2 good David Spade movies, and they both involve Chris Farley. Please don't tell me it was Joe Dirt 2. Please don't tell me it was Joe Dirt 2.
She's in a bunch of French things that I can't pronounce.
Je peux.
Lost and Found.
Lost and Found.
Mhm.
There you go.
I saw that. Also, Paula Patton was in a Netflix movie, and I watched it solely because she was in it.
Yeah.
She was in The Do-Over with Adam Sandler.
And
David Spade. So that's what we learned today, kids.
Yeah.
And Nick Swardson, who's really fucking funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, she's in that.
Cool.
The Do-Over.
You know, we were so if Sophie Marceau is the MVP, is who's worse, Robert Carlyle or Denise Richards?
Well, I mean, Robert Carlyle's like barely in it. Like we were saying, like just screen time. I mean, like again, his thing is he ticks off the weird body thing, you know, with the bullets. Like that's the thing I remember most about this movie. You know, before watching it again with you guys, was like there's a man with a bullet slowly going through his head, and he'll die.
I think
He
he's
can't
worse
feel pain.
than Denise Richards because Denise Richards she's got 10 to 15 lines in the whole movie.
Yeah.
She didn't do anything.
You could argue neither does he.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does create the world's most disgusting one-liner.
I don't remember.
It involves Christmas.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're getting redder.
How many times?
That's
is
like honestly like that's
that's the last line in the film too.
It is the last line in the film, and it's also like whenever the topic of Bond movies comes up around Grant, who's one of who's like Sam and mine college roommate.
Yeah,
that's really weird. Like, how do you like Sam and my fucking whatever? He was our roommate in college, and anytime you talk about Bond movies with him, he's like, "Hey, you know that line from that movie?"
The world is not enough.
About only once a year. And I'm just like, God damn it.
Yeah. He also Grant always.
It's fucking filthy. Like that line alone. Like that lady who told your mom to not let you see this fucking movie was right because of this line. That's the most disgusting shit in the entire fucking Bond franchise, right there.
Is that worse than Connery slapping her in the ass and saying, "Run along now, time for man talk"?
That's just Sean Connery. Like, I'm pretty sure that was ad-lib.
Yeah. That's just like chauvinistic, like some shit.
That's just like that was actually like just like some footage that they had. The camera was left on by accident on the set, and they were just like, "Fuck it, let's put it in the movie." Sean's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was the fucking '60s, so like they could get away with that shit.
It's very Don Drapery. Yeah. You know.
Don't be hating on my man Double D.
I mean, he's pretty cool. Actually, honestly, after season 3 of Mad Men, what the fuck happens to Mad Men?
It dies.
Good.
Which season is it where the guy gets his foot run over with a lawnmower?
I feel like that's season.
Probably all of them.
I feel like that's season.
Every
3.
episode.
Yeah.
It's just like
Oh,
that show's just like so fucking melodramatic. I can't handle
I think it was season 3. Is the last episode of season 3 like
The heist.
Close the door and
Yeah.
and that
Mhm.
episode, like that season, that episode was fucking like
That's one of the best
that is-
episodes.
When
of
people talk about
modern
Mad Men, and
television.
that might have been where I stopped watching that because I was like, "Fuck this!" I just was like, "Oh shit!" And then in between seasons, I that always happens. But I remember when people were like, "Oh, Mad Men," that's what I think of when people
See,
talk
I,
about Mad Men.
I fucking hate Mad Men, and like the only reason is because, and it's a really terrible reason, but here's the reason, is because I was in law school at the time, and like when Halloween would come around, you'd go out for like the Halloween bar crawl or whatever, and like people would show up in just like a suit, and then they'd be really mad that you didn't like instantly be like, "Oh, you're Don Draper," and it's like, no, you're wearing like a fucking powder blue suit. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But yeah, that was that's my story, and fuck Mad Men.
But you also don't like Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad is, I will admit that is probably just my own idiosyncratic like self being ridiculous, because you know there's things that people like that I just don't, and if you're not willing to accept that, then fuck you. But like Breaking Bad is one of those. Another one that like a lot of people like that I just don't get is Harry Potter. Like, And it's not like I don't give him a
Yeah, I'm
chance.
not a Harry Potter fan.
I read fucking 4.5 of those books and was like, okay, like when am I allowed to not like this? And people were like, oh, you just got to keep reading. And I'm like, are you ever going to tell me that I'm allowed to stop? And they're like, you just got to keep reading. And I'm like, fuck you, I'm done.
I'm in the same boat with you on Harry Potter, Gary.
Yeah, but like there's certain things that like people will be like, oh, you haven't experienced enough of it to be able to judge it. And it's like, well, you know, at what point am I allowed to just be like, this is not for me? Which, like, getting back to topic a little bit, like, thankfully that is not a thing in James Bond, because there are movies that are great and there are movies that are kind of whatever. And like if you watch the wrong fucking Bond movie, then yeah, like I might be like, maybe you should check out this film. But like if you watch an actual good Bond film, if you watch like GoldenEye or From Russia with Love or fucking Goldfinger, and you're just like, I don't get it, then okay, yeah, maybe this isn't for you, and maybe you shouldn't be listening to this podcast. Why are you here? Like, thanks for clicking, I guess, but whatever.
Yeah.
But like,
Thanks for clicking, I guess. That's the best line ever.
Click some more, share it, tag it.
that's the title of the podcast.
Like-
Thanks for clicking, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks for clicking, I guess.
Yeah. We probably get more subscribers. I'm always surprised by the amount of subscribers we have, you know?
4 is a lot. That reminds me of this line in Punisher Platoon, which is so fucking badass, where Frank Castle like drops napalm on a suspected like sniper position, and they kill 4 enemy, right? And they go and they check the bodies, and he's like, all right, tell the higher ups we got 4, and they're like, well, we should really double it up and tell them we got 8 because that's what we usually do. And Frank goes, he's so badass. He goes, no, it's 4. Let them think it was 2. And I was like, what a fucking badass. Read that book.
That's like the last Garth Ennis Punisher.
Yeah, Punisher Platoon. Frank's first tour in Vietnam.
All I can think of is like
Badass.
Punisher Platoon is like Punisher played by Bill Murray, and it's like not fucking.
Whoa, wacky.
It's the sequel to Stripes, really.
Oh, God.
But I mean, you know, this is very much like a late 90s entry. They've got the Millennium Dome.
The end of the 20th century for Bond.
It's
too.
the last 20th century Bond film.
Mm-hmm.
Hoo boy.
We were also saying too, like because of
a lot of Judi Dench as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is the first like M-centric storyline, or
Yeah,
M heavily involved storyline.
and because of the subject material of spy espionage and dealing with big world counterterrorism issues and whatnot, it's also the last pre 9/11 Bond.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And it's also like given, that's kind of a good point, because it's the, there is that kind of weird like zone in the 90s where, how do you fucking write a spy movie? You're no longer fighting the Cold War, and we're not yet to the point where you're chasing after terrorists or whatever. So like, who's your bad guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and in this case, I mean, how many times is, like, with Brosnan, with these first 3 Brosnan, the pre-9/11 Brosnan films, are still Cold War adjacent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the first one is very much like, it's the ruins of the Soviet Union that Trevelyan takes advantage of, that, and it starts during, the prologue set during the Cold War.
Yep.
The prologue of Tomorrow Never Dies is set in Siberia at an arms sale of old Soviet, that's how Carver gets his like nukes or whatever. No, he doesn't get nukes, does he? He just tries to trick the Chinese, but there are nukes there that otherwise it'll make Chernobyl look like Christmas tree, to quote the Russian general that's in the Situation Room. And then the World Is Not Enough involves like Russian pipelines and stuff, and they're when we meet Denise Richards, she's disarming
Old Soviet bombs.
Yeah, and they steal an old Soviet era like nuclear sub. So yeah,
what kind of sub?
Nuclear.
You came real close.
To pushing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Nuclear. It's pronounced nuclear.
They gave me so much shit about that in college. So,
Are you confounded by that pronunciation?
See, that's another college reference. That was my ingenious mix of confounded and fuck you. That's what But I think Brosnan's era, at least the first 3 films, is very much defined by the specter of the Cold War. For better or worse, really to diminishing returns, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense with Goldeneye, because that's the first post-Cold War Bond film. And then everything else, it's like, well, so we're still, like, years and years later, it's like, oh, we're still here.
And yeah, and I know that there were like worries in the 70s and 80s that Bond would no longer be relevant, but I feel like these 90s films are when that prediction really kind of comes true, and they're sort of trying to figure out what the fuck do you do, and then the next film, which we'll talk about, its particular problems, kind of completely fucking misses the mark on that, and for the criticisms that I have of Daniel Craig Bond, those films do feel a lot more, I don't know, relevant to the time period than the basically any Bond film other than GoldenEye did, where any Brosnan film other than GoldenEye did, where like those kind of from Tomorrow Never Dies on are just kind of like, they almost feel like period pieces to an era that never was.
Yeah, I think it's at the same time, it's important to note that while they're languishing creatively, GoldenEye, if you don't adjust for inflation, is the highest grossing Bond film at that point.
GoldenEye is fucking good. Like, don't get me wrong. And like, I feel like GoldenEye is paradoxically, because it's the one that most holds on to the old Cold War gimmick. It's the one that's most explicitly like tied to the Cold War.
It's the most organic of it too.
It also winds up being the most relevant to its time period, where like when you go back and watch it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember what it was like in the 90s. Where you like go back and watch these films and you're like, oh yeah, I remember what it was like on Mars. Like they're just, it's like they're films made for people who never experienced anything prior to like 2050, which hasn't even happened yet.
Well, yeah, GoldenEye is the only one that is allowed to play that post-Cold War card, really. You know what I mean? Like, that they were able to use that so well. Like, it was in all the trailers, and, fucking M shuts Bond down. Like, that, like, they at least had that, but then once you get to, like, Tomorrow Never Dies, and you get to World's Not Enough, you're like, you can't play that card anymore. Like, it's not, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I think that was something to be like, what does Bond do in a post-Cold War world? Well, GoldenEye. Okay, now what does he do now? Well,
TV guy.
Yeah, remember the Cold War?
Newspaper guy.
Yeah. Types very fast and vigorously guy. Bullet to the head guy.
It's like all mega.
Diamond face guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got Diamond Face Man.
Yeah, and Fencer man.
It's really it's almost like naming off like Mega Man villains.
I'm not looking forward to this next episode.
I think I make no bones when I say Die Another Day is my least, and I'll mention it again multiple times next episode, is my least favorite James Bond film. I don't think there's, to your point, I don't think there's any unwatchable James Bond film, including this one. These are fine. These are also made to order. They're like factory approved, like they're prefab Bond movies. If there is ever a time where the formula is present, it's present here. When we were watching the movie, there's that sequence with the helicopters blades. I don't know why they just didn't send regular helicopters with missiles, but helicopter blades.
Oh, the ones like hanging the saw
Yeah.
blades, like hanging, yeah.
Yeah.
And it felt like, I think Jake said it best. It felt like Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. Like it absolutely feels like it's like filmed on a soundstage, and the way it's presented and everything.
If you're crazy enough to be, or if you're like, just for whatever reason, if you're listening to this podcast and you're listening to us like talk about this and you've not seen the movie, like watch it, and like as things are happening, try to predict what's going to come next. And I think you'll find that you'll have about a 90% success rate on guessing the next beat, which, for any kind of blockbuster, you can expect probably like 50 to 60%, and then they throw a couple of twists in here or there. But like for this movie and for Tomorrow Never Dies and for Can Die Another Day, especially, which is just but it's those films, like all three of those films, are just very easy to, I don't know, I would think would be relatively easy to kind of predict what's coming next, even for a blockbuster kind of mass market appeal film.
Yeah, they just kind of go through the motions.
Yeah. I mean, at no moment where I'm like 100% invested. There's none of that. That never goes down. It's just, I mean, it's not a bad movie per se. It's just not a particularly good one. and that's the kind of my recurring trope with the Brosnan era.
I would put this film below Tomorrow Never Dies, because the kind of recurring thing I had for Tomorrow Never Dies is, it's a movie, you can watch it, and like this one, if somebody were to come over to my place and be like, hey, let's watch this movie, and they put up Tomorrow Never Dies, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, let's put it on, but we're gonna do something else while it's on, like either play a game, get some drinks, whatever. But like I put it on the TV. If somebody came over with this film and was like, hey, let's watch this, I would go to my DVD rack and be like, hey, what about this instead? Not that I'm gonna like push it, but like I would make other suggestions before I would sit down and watch this movie. I'm not gonna, like, if somebody's like, no, I just really want to watch this, then okay, yeah, I can watch it. But this is, again, not unwatchable, but definitely not as watchable as most of the rest of the franchise.
I can't remember which movie we said earlier was like it may have been Moonraker. I just don't remember. Was the perfect YouTube Bond, where you could watch like what you needed to in those like 3 to 4 minute clips on YouTube. I think this movie kind of fits that bill. Like you can watch the the opening sequence through the credits on YouTube, and you'll be thoroughly entertained. And then you, by and large, probably don't really need to watch anything until he meets Denise Richards and they go in that mine. And then you can watch the helicopter scene, maybe. You can watch the skiing. The skiing's kind of cool, a little over the top with the jet skis that have parachutes on them and they can fly. But there's some fun stuff in there. And then you can watch the last 10 to 15 minutes of the movie, basically from the moment that Bond is in that sex torture chair where Brosnan just completely overacts with the fake choking and all the way through the submarine. You can have a good time, but that takes all of maybe 25, 30 minutes. You can do it, while you're commuting to work in the morning on the metro or whatever, and you've got your fair share and your fill of this film.
Yeah, I mean I think you're right, and just like my only kind of critique is that to that argument is that basically there's a lot more in this film that you would skip over than there are in the other films where there's something going on. Like there's definitely times during the TBS Thanksgiving marathon or whatever the fuck when this movie's on the TV, and it's not one where you can look up at any point and be entertained. There are times when it drags, and there are times when, if you haven't been paying attention to what's going on going into that moment, you're going to look up at the screen and be like, why is this on the screen again? But there are definitely moments where the film pays off, where all the stuff that you mentioned. Like there's moments where it's good even, It's just that the ratio of good stuff to bad stuff is not positive enough to really make me recommend this film.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it's definitely an uneven film. The only thing that I would say, I don't think it's a better film than Tomorrow Never Dies. I would say, though, that I think the ultimate weakness that we had in Tomorrow Never Dies, that we all kind of agreed on, was the villain was kind of meh, weak villain, and the storyline was probably not as developed as it could have been. And if they were to do that movie now, they could really, really develop it with a really good villain to make it really relevant in the fake news media world, whatever you want to call it, that we're currently dealing with. The peaks of this movie, I think, get a little bit better than Tomorrow Never Dies in terms of stuff that you just remember and it stands out. Like, there are certain things that stand out in this movie from like a set piece or whatever. Like, there's just a few memorable things. Whereas, but the valleys of this movie are really, really fucking low. I think that's probably not an unfair comparison between at least those two films.
Kind of like the difference between, and to go to like an entirely different franchise, but like the difference between Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, where like one of them has the really high highs, but also the really the really low lows, and the other one is just kind of more steady, except for the steady level in these two films is a little bit lower than either of those.
Yeah, I don't think that's an unfair statement at all.
I would take The World Is Not Enough over Tomorrow Never Dies. That's all I have to say about that.
I think this is one where, either side of it is defensible. This is not kind of a comparing apples to oranges situation. There's definitely things, unlike in Tomorrow Never Dies, where you're going to be watching this film and be like, oh man, that was awesome.
Yeah.
It's just you're not going to have as many of those moments as you would have in, say, GoldenEye or really any other movie in the franchise before that, except for like Man with the Golden Gun. But this film is just kind of it's got its moments.
Yeah.
And those moments are worth watching. And I would, especially if you have watched any significant number of Bond films, I would recommend watching this for those highs. But, just understand that there's going to be times when you're going to be looking at the screen like, why did I put this on again? And like, if you get through those, it's okay. You're going to have a couple of moments that kind of suck.
I think
the payoff when he kills Sophie Marceau at the end of the movie is pretty. Again, I said it earlier. Like, I feel like that should have been the end of the conflict because, there's a big emotional, I think, payoff there for Bond. Because he goes, that's a really cold-blooded fucking scene, and a cold-blooded kill.
Yeah, definitely.
That I always find to be rewatchable, and then it just feels cheapened by kind of like the next 15 minutes of the movie.
I think the big thing for me, if we're comparing Tomorrow Never Dies and this movie, is that, like we were saying, Tomorrow Never Dies has some great moments. I always love the remote control car scene, and some of the big stunts. But I think the one thing The World Is Not Enough has over Tomorrow Never Dies is there are characters and performances that arc through the movie that I like way more than Tomorrow Never Dies. Where, like you were saying, like Tomorrow Never Dies, you watch for some certain scenes and some cool action moments. And, like I said, if you put it on, it's not terrible. But World Is Not Enough has, Sophie Marceau. I'm confusing myself. Sophie Marceau. And I like Brosnan's performance in both, but I like, like you're saying, that arc of the cold-blooded kill in the end, and the cold open and stuff. I just think that's I think what tips it over the edge for me. Even though I'd pick Tomorrow Never Dies as a better theme song. So
interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think Peter Jackson thought when he read this script when he was being considered for director? What would a Peter Jackson The World Is Not Enough look like? Because he was up for director.
He was, because of based on the strength of the film Heavenly Creatures, which was also Kate Winslet's first major film role. And then the Bond producers saw the rest of his filmography, which is largely like cheap horror movies, and they're like, no. And then luckily, I mean, things came out okay for Peter Jackson. He got like basically Lord of the Rings right after this. What would a Peter Jackson James Bond movie, particularly a Peter Jackson World Is Not Enough, look like? I think it would look like
A little bit like this.
It would look like Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, starring Paula Patton.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that might not be a far off, because like that film kind of embraces the joyous side, and I think what Peter Jackson brings to a lot of film projects is kind of that like fanboyish enthusiasm. You see it with The Lord of the Rings, you see it with The Adventures of Tintin, you see it with King Kong. You know, he's such a big King Kong fan that movie's 3 fucking hours long.
I think this movie would end with Bond with a lawnmower just going through a crowd of bad guys.
Running over their feet.
No. Dead Alive, the movie he did.
I thought we were tying it back to Mad Men.
No. For the sake of Garrett, fuck Mad Men. Even though I like Mad Men, but I'm trying to be on his good side because we're gonna get to Quantum of Solace in a couple weeks.
3 episodes. Yeah.
You're gonna burn all that goodwill in about 20 seconds.
Yeah. He wished me happy birthday, and I was like, hey, yeah, Quantum of Solace on the way, and he's like, don't push it. No, but was it? I think it's Dead Alive. I think it has multiple titles, but yeah, he
also I think it was released as Dead Alive here, and it was released like as Brain Dead.
Yeah, and he goes through a fucking crowd with a lawnmower and kills a lot of bad people, bad zombie people, whatever the fuck it is.
There's zombies in that film.
Yeah, it's just fucking insane.
It's
Guy's
gory
ribcage
as
gets
hell.
pulled out. It's fucking awesome.
Chick gets punched through the back of the head, and the fist comes out the mouth.
It is fucking awesome.
It's a bloody, gory fucking movie.
Yeah, but it's like super funny too.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like they're Evil Dead.
Yeah, but I like even more fucking nuts. It's fucking nuts. It is fucking nuts. Hey, you know a series of curse words that I put? I didn't make this up, but I used out loud that was like refreshing, and I was like, that was awesome. I was getting out of my car, and I like stubbed like my knee in, like on something, on the door getting out, and instead of like going like shit or fuck like I normally would, I said fucking cocksucker. That was awesome. Like it's been a while since I've used those 2 words together like that. Very refreshing. So next time you do something like you like stub your toe, yell out fucking cocksucker.
It's very Deadwood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they're making a movie.
They are. They're supposed to start filming in like a month or 2.
Yeah. So use that phrase. It heals all.
That's okay.
That's it.
Yeah. That and Punisher Platoon and
and Paula Patton
movies
as Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk.
I can see it. I want Jennifer Walters to be Paula Patton.
Yeah.
Like if I had to fan cast She-Hulk?
Yeah, I fan cast She-Hulk like 17 different times, but I think finally Paula Patton.
Yeah. Just watch like Mission Impossible, like Ghost Protocol, which is what a Peter Jackson World Is Not Enough would be. And it's
and then at some point Bond yells out, fucking cocksucker. Boom!
What was I watching that? Oh, Mission Impossible. Not the one with Paula Patton. Mission Impossible Fallout.
Then what are we even talking about?
Mission Impossible Fallout's the first Mission Impossible movie where the word fuck is used.
And it's by Superman himself.
Yeah.
What that look he gives, which I know won't be good on a podcast, when he's like, when a man like that, he has that one look on his face when he's like, how many times, he
always leads with his mouth.
Yeah, he also does it, when he's in Justice League, he's like, do you bleed?
Yeah,
like
well, it's especially apparent in Justice League because he leads with a fake mouth.
Yeah, fake mouth. Yes, ma'am. Damn it.
Slow poke.
Yeah. Fucking asshole. And what do you look like? You fucking cocksucker. He comes back and Superman just fuck fucking like vulgar piece of shit. That'd been so great. He comes back and they're like,
That's how he stops Steppenwolf?
yeah, when Wonder Woman's like, Kal-El, and he's like, fuck cocksucker, bam, punches. Batman's like, hey, he's like, fuck you, old piece of shit.
I do like Rich's rendition of Gal Gadot's Kal-El. When we were all watching that clip of Justice League, and you knew, like, when Wonder Woman like tries to appeal to Superman, and she drops his Kryptonian name.
Yeah. Kal-El.
Yeah, and he's just like, fuck off.
Yeah, annihilates like everybody.
Yeah.
Though that does have like when he notices like the Flash is like charging him,
Yeah.
and like he's like, I'm the fucking fastest
He's
shit.
like, you're the fastest fucking dickhole alive. Boom.
Because yeah,
punches him, his head explodes.
You see like the Flash notices that Superman's like eye line can like track him, and he's like, oh fuck.
There's a guy in the audience, and I don't think it was me. When I saw it the first time, I went, yeah, because there's Superman, super speed. Stands up, everybody. He's just as fucking fast. Yeah. Sit the fuck down, cocksucker. I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna use that
In like 9 months.
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking do it.
Ah.
Look over at my dad. He's passed out, asleep. I'm like, God damn it.
That's a movie, like, I remember the first time I saw Justice League, I was like, this is actually kind of fucking good. Like, it's a fun time.
It's fun. Yeah.
Every time I've seen Justice League since, it like exponentially, like, there's like a noticeable like drop off.
It's like a fine episode of a TV show.
Like Breaking Bad.
Yes, it's like Breaking Bad.
It would have been a hell of a Smallville episode.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Absolute Justice episode or whatever it's called.
There are moments where like Justice League special effects look like they have the budget of a Smallville episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slow poke. Slow piece of shit. Remember when
I believe in truth.
Yeah,
Also a big fan of Justice.
kicking your fucking teeth in. Remember when he comes in and like literally does everything, and the Justice League's like, "Thank Christ," and he's like, "No, Moses." Oh man, what a disaster!
Wouldn't it be Abraham?
Because
Because they're the house of Abraham.
no, not Moses. Yeah, Moses, right?
Well, Moses is big.
No, but Moses has like the exact same story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Has the
yeah.
exact same story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Jesus, it's Moses. So, suck on that.
And that's your dirty innuendo
Yeah.
for this.
Fucking cocksuckers.
Christmas only comes, fuck you. Any last thoughts on The World's Not Enough before we put this one to, I guess, Bond in the 90s and 20th century?
Yeah.
To bed. To pop it off.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a movie that you should avoid. There's one or two Bond films that I would have trouble recommending that you watch, and this is not one of them. I think it's a watchable film. It's fine for what it is. You just kind of have to accept that there's going to be moments where it's not particularly great, and if you can look past some of the more glaring faults and give it a shot, it's a perfectly watchable film that while it's not going to make you it's not going to make you into a massive Pierce Brosnan fan, will certainly it's certainly worth whatever the price of admission is these days to get this on streaming or whatever. So like $2 or whatever. It's not going to be money poorly spent.
It's only $2 for you. What platform do you use?
I don't. Money is a construct that has no meaning. So
Yes,
like whatever.
ma'am.
Like you're not going to pay a shitload of money to watch this movie because it's old and not particularly great. But like at the same time, whatever you're paying, as long as it's not like $50 or more, is probably fine.
You know what isn't a poorly made construct?
Punisher Platoon.
I was going to say Mission Impossible
Paula
Ghost
Patton?
Protocol. Yeah, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, starring Paula Patton. Have you?
See that movie before you see this movie.
Yeah, and then be like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
shit. There's like
Before you see that movie, watch The Matador.
Do
again.
yeah, yes, please.
Actually, yeah.
Smell you. I shouldn't have to tell you.
So wait, Garrett, have you seen the Mission Impossibles?
I've seen the first 3.
So you saw like.
Then what are you waiting for?
Saw the Maggie Q one.
You're all ready for Paula Patton era.
That's the next one. You get Ghost Protocol. You get Hoynes.
But Hoynes is the bad option.
Every fucking time. For those of you at home, okay, you know. So
I watched a lot of fucking West Wing.
yeah. You watch a lot of fucking West Wing. You're probably the biggest West Wing fan I know. Every time we record an episode of this James Bond stuff and you Skype in, you've got Jed Bartlett as your avatar. I always
From Two Cathedrals, which is, to be fair, Two Cathedrals is the single best episode of television ever made.
Nah, commencement, but you get Hoynes.
Two Cathedrals is fucking great. Like, if you don't think Two Cathedrals is the best, you're wrong. I'm sorry about it.
Two Cathedrals is a great episode. Fantastic episode. But Commencement, where Zoe Bartlett gets kidnapped, is like masterclass writing.
Is some sweepswig bullshit. Like this, like Two Cathedrals is like you have Jed Bartlett having an argument with fucking God.
Yeah,
like you get Hoynes, he's not talking to like some fucking cabinet person. He's like, "Yo, God, fuck you." You get Hoynes.
I do like that he cusses out God randomly in Latin at times in that diatribe.
I mean, it's very Jed Bartlett, but like the scene where he like in that scene when he puts out the cigarette on the floor of the National Cathedral is just like you can't see me right now, but like when a chef makes a really good pot of pasta and does that like kissing thing with his fingers, that's like, yeah, that's that.
We
that's
call
that
it.
Scene. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a joke about that.
You should watch. If you want to see some talks with God, you should watch Preacher.
Oh yeah, and read Preacher. Honestly,
read Preacher. Fuck everything we've talked about for the past couple. Just read Preacher.
Yeah. While this movie's on in the background, while you're watching The World's Not Enough, just read all of Preacher.
Yeah.
You can do it. It's only 66 issues.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And there you have it. So this has been another installment of From Geek Out with Love. I'm Sam.
I'm Jake.
I'm Rich.
I'm Garrett.
Goodbye,
James Bond. It's not even that bad in the fucking movie, but we'll get there.
Oh no.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday, and you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.